Andy Anderson, your superintendent, and welcome to the school town hall meeting. We typically will start our town hall meetings by just going around the horn to develop a sense of community, kind of get a feel for who people are. To speed things along, how many of you had a kid in Lake Prairie? How about Oak Hill and Three Creeks? Okay, so well represented. How about kids in the middle school, high school? And how many of you have no kids in school at all? So it's great. We've got community members, we've got parents here. All 5 schools are represented. We've got 2 primary topics tonight. One is the Lowell Intermediate School, and the second one has to do with capital improvements, construction, facility enhancements. And so we're going to sort these 2 topics out and tackle them one at a time. Our school town hall meetings are not a prepared, canned presentation, but they truly are driven by your questions. So facilitating the intermediate school discussion will be our Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment, Kevin Dio.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you coming out regardless of what the topic is. So we're going to do our best to pace ourselves to make sure that we can meet the full audience's needs tonight. Obviously, we are really excited to talk about the intermediate school. We've done some updates at some of our board meetings, which are still publicly posted to our website if you'd like to go back and look at those. But tonight is more, like Mr. Anderson said, conversational. To assist me with this, though, there's a little bit of excitement that if you haven't heard, we have already named the principal for the intermediate school to open up the building next year in the 24-25 school year. And that is our current assistant principal at Lowell Middle School, Gina Milcarrick. There she is. She wasn't there. She moved over there and now there. So she's going to be helping us out a little bit tonight to capture some of the talking points that we want to go through. What I can say at the beginning is we are going to invite you to simply give us some topics of interest, wonders that you have about the intermediate school. We will jot them down up on the whiteboard. And then, like Mr. Anderson said, rather than giving a formal presentation, we'll kind of look at the ones that go together with one another that we can address and that we can answer. We've been doing work and having conversation in preparation for this for many months now. So I'm really excited that a lot of what I anticipate you guys are going to ask or wonder, we'll be able to give you some answers on. I can also say that because we still have months ahead of us, and we've been progressing with the plan in progress, there are certainly topics that we are still wrestling with, things that we're still planning and preparing for. We've used the analogy that opening up the intermediate school is kind of like this beautiful empty vase. And we knew that in order to fill that vase, we had to begin first with like those big rocks, the most important decisions that filled the majority of your space. We took a lot of time last year visiting other intermediate schools, learning about them, learning about their journeys and what worked, what didn't work, and what they would potentially do differently, having learned about their process, looking at their demographics, looking at their programming. We then had a lot of conversations, previously town halls where we solicited feedback, and put together an intermediate school planning committee that did a lot of that working to address what are the most substantial rocks, the big pieces that are going to make up the architecture of the intermediate school. That was kind of the work that we did from late last winter all the way through this summer. In the months that have happened since the summer to the start of this school year, we start looking at the pebbles. So those are important, substantial pieces and decisions that need to make place that you begin to fill that base with so that they start to give character to what that school is going to be. They're very important. They have an influence and a profound impact on the school, and they can only start to find their place once the rocks are settled. And finally, some of the things that are most exciting, that makes the school dynamic, that gives it its character, are those pieces of sand, those small granules that really define the building. That's what we get excited about having with the leadership of the teachers that are going to be there, Ms. Milcarrick, and really defining what's going to make Lowell Intermediate a very important and unique place. So, because it's been a 3-phase process, some of those granulars of sand, and even some of those pebbles, haven't fully been defined just yet, but there certainly are conversations happening around them. And based on the feedback and the conversation we have tonight, it can help to inform some of the conversations going forward. So with all of that, we are ready to jot down some of the questions that you guys have or topics that you'd like to learn more about. So if you'd like to throw a hand up, I know there will be a bunch that come up right away because that's why you're here. And we'll jot those down and start to go through them one by one. So who would like to kick it off for us?
Sports.
Sports. Thank you, Mr. Weers, with sports.
What
And
does
clubs.
the day look like compared to the elementary and the current middle school?
So that'd be like your daily schedule, like what classes you take. So I think that's kind of two questions. Not only how many classes will you have, but probably wondering like what classes will be offered.
Go ahead and add class size in there too.
Okay? Class sizes.
Oh, for social emotional learning, what resources do you guys have for students?
That was social and emotional learning and resources to support students.
What if it doesn't work out? Like, what if there's major problems and maybe it wasn't a good idea?
Okay, so self-reflection, right? Evaluation.
What is the building scheduled to be finished?
When is the building? So we're going to look actually at the facility and some of the renovations and when the renovations will be done.
Will adventure club be offered?
Adventure club, so after school and before school care.
What is the benefit of it? Like, why is this going to be better than what we've been doing?
Sure. Advantages that we see to an intermediate school for students.
Transportation.
Transportation.
What kind of grading system is it going to be?
Grading system, so grading, reporting, and feedback.
Class blending, classes be blended.
Class blending, so would that be like the actual students that make up the different classes and sections? Very good. So I would talk teaming structure you can throw up there.
What after-school activities or clubs are offered for fifth graders that you can get all
So in addition to sports, just extracurriculars and extracurricular offerings more generally.
The electives, how is that going to be between fifth and sixth?
And I'm going to put additional word on there. So electives are those courses that you choose during the school day. And I would even throw in there specials because you know as elementary parents, they have specials rotations that take place. So probably knowing the difference between the two of those and what may or may not be offered.
So I guess this is kind of two-part. The first part's real easy. It is going to be part of this building, correct?
Yeah, what's the address, right?
So I guess my main question is though, what's the separation between the younger kids and the older kids going to be like?
Right, so if we're a school within a school, how do we keep the two populations separate from each other? Great question.
Are the students going to be able to have an opportunity before school starts to like come and visit the school and talk to the parents to kind of, get accompanied to what's going to happen when they start school?
Right, so very much like we have transitions from elementary, middle to high school, the wonder is about like what type of a transition program will be there from the elementary to the intermediate school. Great question.
Do they have field trips, recess? Like at their age now, if they're fourth graders, I feel like they might get gypped a year of that.
So field trips, recess, and other activities that maybe are associated with elementary school and start to disappear a little bit more when they get older. Good question.
Will the curriculum be changing at all?
Curriculum. So that would be not only the standards that are being taught, but the materials, the resources, the assessments that are a part of that as well, all making up that umbrella of curriculum. It's like you were all planted here to ask the perfect questions that we were looking forward to sharing with you. Any more before we start to kind of dive in? Yeah.
Staff.
Staffing. Anything specific about staffing? Just what the makeup is?
This one, how many are teaching fit, like the breakdown?
Okay, so an approximate breakdown of what the staffing of the specific intermediate school would look like, and maybe even like where you might have shared positions, right?
Admin,
Administrative team, office staff, absolutely, good question.
support services, things like special education.
Special education support services, I would even put in for our English language learner population, our high ability population.
As it
Bible
relates to
course-
staffing or more programming?
Both.
Both.
Along with staffing, just curious if you're requiring additional staff and what's already in the school system.
So the question there is like, when it relates to the staff, what changes have to be made or need to be made based on our current staffing makeup to make sure that we're ready for the 24-25 school year?
Will there be like any graduation ceremonies for the fourth graders like there usually is for the fifth graders?
So that transition again, because fourth grade will mark the end of transitioning into that building, what kind of things might be in the work at the actual elementary schools in anticipation of next year?
Inclusion, how is the staff and students do inclusion?
Inclusion, and are we talking specific, could you expound upon that a little bit?
Different abilities.
Okay, so we're looking at the way in which students are placed in their classes, so everything from your high ability, your students that are performing at grade level, students with 504, students with special education and IEPs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then also like socially too, like how are kids, with other kids.
So academically and behaviorally.
Is this being recorded so people can see it online?
I have a red light on my face right now. I hope that that's Mr. Blackman recording me and nothing other threatening.
Speak loud.
All right, I think that there will probably be some very good follow-up clarifying questions as we dive into this because this is a really, really lengthy and on-point list that we want to begin with. So just to talk a little bit about like what we researched, and Gina, if you could help me out like, just by putting a check mark as we start to go through some of these. One of the most important rocks that we looked at was the teaming structure and the schedule of the day, or the master schedule of what experiences students would have. And as I shared, we went and looked at a variety of different models across the state of Indiana, and every one of them was a little bit different. And we wanted that because we wanted to see what would be the right fit for our desired outcomes. So one of the first questions was like, why? Why did we look at this model? One of the things we want to be clear on is that while our current footprint of Lowell Middle School, where you are now, was originally intended to bring fifth graders over, we knew that from models in neighboring districts that just having a 5 through 8 middle school was not desirable to us. We did not want to have that intersection of fifth graders all the way through eighth graders, just having the same middle school experience. So because of that, we began looking at the intermediate school, and the primary focus was like, how do we provide a bridge that takes those young adolescents and helps them to transition from a system where there are a lot of guardrails in place, they walk hips and lips down the hallways together, right, to and from class, to the middle school where they're up and down the hallways, and they essentially have freedom of the school without that transition in place. We know that it's a very influential age for those young students. So to look at a program that could help to put those guardrails still in place to keep them moving toward a middle school experience in 7th grade, that was attractive to us because in the schools that we looked at, we heard about not only supporting them academically and meeting their needs and taking advantage of continued teaming structures that work at the elementary level, but we even heard about like the behavioral impact where we've had a lot of problems at the 6th grade level of just immediately releasing them into that free-flowing system. So to have our 5th and 6th graders together longer with some of those guardrails in place to build those skills a little bit more gradually, to build their capacity so that they're comfortable and confident as they transition into middle school, that was a driving force. So we saw both the academic benefit of teaming structures, we saw the behavioral benefits by keeping them within those systems that are a little bit of the middle school and a little bit of the elementary. So it's truly a bridge or a hybrid program. That was really attractive to us. And we heard a lot of results that spoke to the benefits at schools around the state when that took place. So that was kind of at the heart of our why. Taking care of those students and making sure that they're most equipped for success as they move from one building to the next. For that teaming structure, we saw different models where you had like duos, where you had 2 teachers per team. One teacher taught all the ELA and all the social studies. One teacher taught all of the math and all of the science, and then they had a variety of specials or elective courses. We saw models that were very much like the middle school, where you had an English teacher, a math teacher, a social studies teacher, a science teacher, and your specials and your electives. We saw trio models, where you had an English teacher, a math teacher, and then the same teacher teaching science and social studies, and kind of having a dual prep there. So looking at all of the different models, we're thinking which of those best meets that outcome of increasing the academic benefits while also supporting benefits. And in working with the committee and looking at our current staffing of what fit based on our licensure and the staff that we currently have in place, we opted for the model that is what we would call the trio system. So within that, we will have 3 different teams per grade level. So in 5th grade, Gina's gonna get mad at me, but I'm gonna use it for simplicity. It'll be a 5A, a 5B, and a 5C. She would love for the A, B, and C to be something colorful or mascot-like or something a little bit more exciting than letters of the alphabet. But we'll have 3 teams there. You'll then have a 6A, a 6B, and a 6C. Within that trio of teams, you'll have an English teacher, a math teacher, a social studies teacher that both teaches on the A team for 5th grade and the A team for 6th grade, and a science teacher that does the same, 5th grade A, 6th grade A. So that's that teaming structure that we see advantage of, because now you've got those teachers really getting to know their group of students, working with them intensely, but making that shift from just an all-inclusive classroom like it is in elementary, where a single teacher does every single subject throughout the course of the day. And I've got something that I can put up on the screen to kind of show you what that teaming structure looks like. That then allows us to maintain something that we like from the elementary model for this age of learners, which is a specials schedule. The specials that we look at are very much influenced by the Indiana academic standards. We wanted to ensure that they still had physical education throughout the course of the year. We wanted to ensure that they had a STEM special throughout the course of the year, because the Department of Education has both computer science and STEM standards that are required all the way through 8th grade for our learners. And we still wanted to instill that love and joy of reading and literacy, so keeping a library special in there for those students. Now what you hear there is, what about our fine arts? What about those programs? That then becomes a choice elective. So for all of our students, we're really excited that typically at Lowell, it would take until 6th grade where they could choose a band, choir, or art. With the program that we have, our 5th graders coming into the middle school will be able to choose an elective of band, choir, or art. So they get that exposure, they get to see it at a younger age, which is great for program development, but it also gives them some time to explore and see if something's the right fit with more years ahead of them, if they get the chance to say, you know, I did band for a couple of years, it wasn't really the right fit for me, I think I'd like to transition to fill in that blank of a different elective. So it allows us to keep the special structures that we are aligned to the standards, but also afford them additional opportunities of elective courses as well. And to the question in the front, we can accomplish this trio model with the specials and the electives with our current staffing that we have at our elementary schools and the middle school. All of that works based on the degrees and licensures and the staff that we have currently. Take a breath there for a second. So if I could pull up on the screen briefly here, I want to show you what that, one of the questions was like, what does a day potentially look like for a student? I think it's important that this is still, of course, a draft, that as we start to apply student names to creating this schedule, there may be tweaks, and the times are simply estimates, but it'll at least give you an idea of what a day might look like. So visually, there is a nice recap of the trio model, the ELA math, social studies classes. Oops, there's a typo there. That should say science right there. I'll fix that. Your specials, gym, STEM, library, like we talked about, your electives in the fine arts. We also built in homeroom time for our students. And to another question, their lunch being paired with a recess like we have at the current elementaries right now. So again, this is just an idea of approximately how many minutes you would have within our current bell structure. So we currently have 390 instructional minutes per day. So we work within that framework. That would allow us to begin with a homeroom period of 15 minutes to begin the day. We would then see our content classes. Again, the order here is arbitrary. It wouldn't be the same for every student, of course, but it gives you an idea of total minutes. What you'll notice immediately is that both ELA and math are double blocked as your primary content areas. So you have 40 and 40 for a total of 80 minutes of ELA instruction. You have 40 and 40 for math for a total of 80 minutes for math instruction. What we really wanted to stay true to was that social studies and science are their own unique blocks, 40 minutes every day. At the elementary level, we are incredibly pressed for time to get all of those contents in with the block requirements. We knew that for students that are often in interventions, or for the sake of time with what you have to cover in math and ELA, that too often social studies and science are shortchanged. And we don't like that. We want to fix that because social studies and science are important. So within this model, this assures that every student has science and social studies every single day. After that, you'll see that there's a special. So on a daily basis, they will have one of the 3 specials classes. We saw a model out east where what we thought was like, my gosh, how do you keep track of it? We sat down in the lunchroom with the kids. We talked to them, we're like, how do you know it's special? They're like, oh, it's easy. And they have the system down. So essentially what it is between the PE, the library, and the STEM, you would just do it every 3 days. So it would be PE, STEM, library, PE, STEM, library, PE, STEM, library. And you would have all 3 of those all year long on a 3-time rotating schedule. We have 40 minutes there allocated for lunch and recess. We then have our elective for 40 minutes. And here we know that it's 2 to 3 days per week. What that means is with our current staffing, to utilize those teachers who can teach art, band, or choir, we would have very, very large numbers if they were to try to meet with those kids every single day. So this actually solved 2 problems. It allowed us to give them that exposure and that choice of an elective, win number 1. But also, if I'm a student and I'm in band, I will have it Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. So 2 to 3 days per week. On those days when I don't have band, so Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Friday, that's where I have time embedded in my schedule, where I don't have to miss science, I don't have to miss social studies or any other area, where I can do intervention, I can do enrichment, I can do additional academic support with my classroom teacher during that time. So it's a win-win because we wanted to make sure that that time was there because it's so important for that additional stretch, that additional push, but it's also there for those students that need something that maybe have skills gaps that need to be given attention to. And then we plugged in an additional 15 minutes at the end of the day for a homeroom so that we kind of bookend the day with the way that we kick it off in the homeroom and we bring things to a close at the end of the day. So again, every student's schedule will vary in the order in which they do those classes, but that gives you an idea of what 390 minutes could be divided up to each of the content areas now. Yeah, clarifying question?
Follow up on your scheduling, the students that don't have special needs or anything like that, what happens to that extra time as far as the electives go?
Right, so in addition to those that would need like an intervention, we also have those that need the push. When we see the models of good instruction, where you have like tier 1 instruction happening during the content blocks, we know that every single learner to meet their growth will benefit from tier 2 instruction, which is repetition or spiraling of skills. So making sure that that is structured time, not just like study hall time, is going to be so important in working with Gina and our building leaders and our teachers, so that every one of those days is about how do we cycle back and either give that additional push, give that reteaching moment, or support those that need to be brought up a little bit more as well. So it's just-in-time learning is what that is. And that's one of the best practices we've been looking at to make sure that we hit all of the different pieces of good instructional framing.
For the electives, is it by semester or quarter? Like, if they chose like music, would that be just like a quarter or semester or the whole year?
The current structure for the elective is a 1-year choice, similar to what you would see at the middle school. Your specials will rotate throughout the entire year as well, but your elective would be that course committed to for the year. All right, Gina, I'm going to peek over here. How many check marks have we got so far?
We've got a few. Class size might be a good transition.
Sure. So as we look at our class sizes, we are taking and looking at our existing enrollment totals. We then looked at our demographer study that came back and told us what we could project in the years ahead. And in so doing, we were seeing class size numbers were about the 27-ish to 27.5 students per class range, which is very comparable to what we're seeing right now in our upper elementary classrooms. And that was projected not only on our reality of our current enrollment, but also what the demographer projected out for us as well. I'm going to shift Gina just for a moment because it's next on the slide to kind of like the facility. There's a lot of questions about like where do they go, what does the building look like, how do we keep the population separated, that kind of thing. So this is where you are currently. That's the current footprint of Lowell Middle School. And what this graphic shows you here is how we're going to create what we're calling 2 separate houses or 2 towers. So within the middle school, we will create unique offices and unique entrances for the middle school and the elementary school. So if everybody kind of like turns their head with me, that area back there is the existing middle school office. That is right here. That will become the intermediate school office. And in order to kind of keep the population of parents and students separated from the middle school, they will have their own unique drop-off point and drop-off entrance that leads you right into that office with a secured vestibule, which already exists as it is right now. So all of these dotted red lines that you see, that's the parent traffic flow for those students that are in the intermediate school, separate from the middle school. On the flip side, I'm not going to trip, that blue oval says 7-8 office. If you've attended our board meetings in the past, they're in a room right to the other side of that wall. We were amazed at how much square footage is actually in that space. We are going to completely transform that LGI and some of the storage space that surrounds it into a unique middle school office. So the red dotted line to the north shows you the parent traffic flow to drop off at a unique point for your middle school students. Secure vestibule that many of you entered tonight, and all of the offices will be in what is currently that large group instruction room, completely retrofit to have principal's office, conference room, secretaries, receptionists, all those things that we know are important in the office fit within the footprint of that LGI really, really nicely. In fact, as Mr. Anderson will share later, that's one of the first projects that's going to begin with the construction updates you hear about later this evening, is starting to transform that space into the offices. So, 2 different entrances. We do expand our parking lot here. For those familiar with the south side, we add additional parking spaces, and that allows us to create a widened bus entrance and exit that goes around the west side of the drive, comes up this way, and our students can enter into Lowell Middle School and go to their given towers. For here, knowing that the middle school is 2 floors, the houses are on opposite ends of the building. So for here, these existing classrooms on the lower floor will all be 5th grade. That's currently where central office lives. They are kicking us out sooner than later, according to them. So we will lose all of our offices and move across town. The good thing is, when those offices were put in there, they were done so as a short-term solution. So all we're really doing is knocking down walls, taking off some drywall where the existing lockers are still hidden behind, and those will just be turned right back into the classrooms that they originally were. So all of our 5th graders will be in a totally unique and independent lower pod here. Up the stairs above them will be the 6th graders, which is where they are right now. So all of our 6th grade students will essentially stay in that same spot on the upper level. Again, because they're in their own tower, they are completely separate and isolated from the rest of their peers in the 7th and 8th grade. The same exists over here. So for 7th and 8th grade, all of the 7th grade classrooms will be on the lower level, and all of the 8th grade classrooms on the upper level. By doing that, there are very natural barriers, doors, that separate the 2 houses, so there's no intersection and no cause for those students to ever cross paths throughout the course of the day. They will truly be in 2 different towers, a school within a school.
For
Specials and electives, I'll get to in just a second. Great question.
Just quick question, are they being bused together or are we running separate buses?
So while we don't have the exact bus right now, all of our students currently are bused together, both at the elementary, middle school, and high school, so we don't anticipate changes. The question is kind of about the scheduling, the drop-off, and maximizing the time so that we can get them into their classes. But our current model, K through 12, is that buses are blended. They are not singled out like elementary, middle, or high school.
So you said students who take the bus would go through the main entrance of the middle school and then they have to go to the path?
This would be the bus drop-off that we're proposing here, which is a lengthy hallway right on the other side of this. So that's where we look at like our supervision opportunities as the students enter into the school, very much like where you have like kindergartners through fifth graders currently entering into the elementary school. They will then be navigated, and that's one of the systems that's going to be put into place to say, how do we get from A to B most directly? Yeah, good question.
Let's say you have a kid in fifth and a kid in eighth, do you have to do both drop-offs, or can you just pick the shortest?
That would be so cruel of us to say, drop this one off here, turn around, go all the way around, and drop off the other. We know that that's going to happen, so it's kind of like, because they're going to the same foyer point, pick the door that you'd like to drop off on, and you can drop off there.
Or the shortest one.
You said students won't blend that all throughout the day. What about lunches?
Say that one more time, Austin.
You said students won't interact 5, 6, 7, 8. What about lunches?
So lunches are going to be completely separate from each other. So you're currently in the cafeteria right now, and we have a schedule that works within the current schedule of our cafeteria staff so that we can feed 5 and 6 completely separate from 7 and 8. So they will not be in the cafeteria together at all. I want to speak to, if I can hold that one, because I'm going to go to specials, your question about that, because that's a good one too. The same thing as you see here. On this, we have a large gym, which many of you have been to right on the other side of this wall. There's an auxiliary gym on the other side of that. We have a wrestling room. We have a weight and cardio room. So within our plan, we wanted to make sure that for specials, especially PE, that they weren't in the gym playing or doing physical education activities at the same time. With our current structure, having PE every hour of every day for 5, 6, and 7, 8, we never have to share that space because we have a main gym, we have a cardio room, and we have an auxiliary gym. And between sharing those, they never have to intersect. What we're currently looking at, and will come up a little bit more during the construction discussion, is you'll see here outlined in red a proposal for a potential additional gymnasium that builds off to the south. So that would be more of like your multi-purpose field house style facility, which would not only give us additional expansion here for intermediate school and middle school, it would support us for bad weather, you know, when we've got recess and we need someplace for them to go, because right now indoor recess is very much just in the classroom at our elementary level. This would give us an additional space. But what we like about the potential there is it also supports community need in after-school hours and during the weekends as well. So we see a lot of potential in considering that additional gymnasium for both during the school day support, but also after-school and weekend support as well for different programs that take place throughout our community. But the good news is, even if that gymnasium does not happen immediately, we can ensure with the facility that we have right now that we can keep all of those student populations completely separate during their specials.
But during passing periods.
Passing period is a great question. We still want to make that independent for our 7, 8 students in that tower. We've talked a lot as a committee that we're probably going to have guided non-bell passing periods for our intermediate school students. So rather than having a bell where they jump up and go to class, we probably won't use bells, and the teacher will stand them up and guide them to their classes. So they're not actually free roaming in that tower. All of that is guided transition.
And thanks to the homeroom at the beginning of the day, it'll be off when the 7th and 8th passing periods are. So they'll already be in their classes by the time our 5 and 6 students are moving.
An additional component there that you may not have seen in the previous is over here to the east. This is the entrance currently for central office on the southeast corner. This is a large grassy area where we'll add like the hard play recess area for the students in the intermediate school. So while the exact designs of what will be there have not yet been laid out, we actually got the chance to talk to some of our 5th grade students from Lake Prairie that have been here for 2 years already, and so like, what would you like in a recess playground area? Because, you know, you're a little bit older, maybe you don't like the monkey bars and all of that anymore. What would you like? And they told us they want basketball hoops, they want swings, they want this game called Gaga Ball. Has anybody seen or heard of Gaga Ball? It's like an octagon from the UFC, but they kick a ball like wild. It's wildly popular. Fits a lot of kids. They wanted hard play areas, which is some of like those painted areas, but they also said just like covered, shaded areas to sit and relax outside. So those are all of the suggestions that we gave to our architects as we start to design that hard play area. Like, how do we give them equipment and availability to play, but also just to get outside during that recess time that's age appropriate for them?
5 and 6 are at the south parking lot, right? 7, 8, the top one?
That is correct, sir. Yep, so this is our southern parking lot right outside those doors. That parking lot would be your middle school 7, 8.
Okay, 2 questions. Will there be guidance with traffic? Because just coming to pick up my kids now, sometimes I'm stuck out on Klein, Nickel Street, whatever it is. And I know with the subdivision going in, it's probably just gonna get worse. Do you have plans for that? My second question is still about the middle school, like classes. You said you're gonna have teachers teaching like math class for 5A and 6A?
No, if you're a math teacher or an ELA, because you're double blocked, you're only a math teacher for 5th grade or only a math teacher for 6th grade.
Okay.
The only teacher that shares is specialized. There'll be a science teacher for 5th and a science teacher for 6th because they're 40 minutes instead of double blocked.
Okay.
And that allows them, and that was feedback that we took from our teachers, those who were like passionate about a specific subject. So rather than saying I have to teach 5th grade science and social studies, why can't I just be that dynamic science teacher in 5 and 6 where I can really dive into science? So that was a great point of feedback from our staff.
What is the arrival and dismissal? When you guys are talking about arrival and dismissal, what is that time?
So as of right now, we're working with our current arrival and dismissal times of the middle school. So we haven't made any changes, and that's what fits within the 390 minutes that we put out there. So we haven't made any changes to arrival or dismissal, which currently for them, their day begins at 8:15 and goes until 2:45.
You just answered my question. I was wondering if there's any staggering start times.
Which grade currently enjoys adventure club benefits? Will that be an option for 5, 6?
Adventure Club is one of those pebbles that we haven't spoken directly to our folks at the Adventure Club to see what support they have to be able to provide that program here. But it's one that's on the radar that we want to ask them about what their capability is. So that's the next step for us. Great question. We know that after school and before school care is important.
What does the middle school parents do for after-school care?
We don't, currently your middle schools, 6 through 8 students do not have after school or before school care. They are dismissed and arrive within that bell schedule. So we don't have an Adventure Club equivalent for 6 through 8 or 9 through 12 students. So Gina, you've got a really good look over there. I had like a little nice note saying, Kevin, you can pass that microphone to Gina and catch your breath and let her address some of those. So what I really like is putting this together with the guidance of the committee. We've hit on a lot of what the rocks are right now, those key integral components of our intermediate school. What now happens is we've had the opportunity to look at the licensure and most importantly, the interests and strengths of our current 5th grade teachers and 6th grade teachers to see if we were to put all of the people as puzzle pieces on the floor, could we actually staff an intermediate school? And we were really fortunate to have great conversations, to seek out input and feedback from our staff members. And we're happy to share that at this time, with those positions that we showed out there, we have staffing, licensure specialists, and strengths and interests in all of our current staff to fill that master schedule as we outlined, which is fantastic for us. So having that in place, We're now looking to bring all of those people together, like their first day is actually tomorrow. So our English language arts teachers and our science teachers have 3 hours blocked together for the first time as a 5-6 team, as an intermediate school team. So what I'm going to ask Gina to speak to a little bit is some of the plans that we have in place that we would consider like the pebbles of like curriculum, instruction, teaming, all of those things that are so important to build the relationships of these educators who haven't worked together, who are going to be on new teams together. And rather than saying, well, we are the Oak Hill team at the intermediate school, we're the Three Creeks team at the intermediate school, breaking that and saying we are all a part of the same team at Lowell Intermediate School, and building that bond with them as soon as possible. So Gina, you're going to talk about some of the things you've done to address curriculum, instruction, collaboration, teaming, etc.
Yep, absolutely. And if it's okay if I go off script a little bit, I want to circle back to field trips and recess. I know we had touched on that a little bit, but just wanted to close that out as we had kind of talked about recess in that hard play area and let you know that field trips, recess, class parties, all of those things I'm really excited about, and I'm very much encouraged as we move forward. I think that experiential learning will be great for our students. Yep.
Really quick. Sure. We lost teachers this past year. Are we going to lose any teachers doing this?
I hope not, and I think I can share, if it's okay with you, Mr. Deal.
Give them that news.
Yep, is that when we met with the teachers at Three Creeks, Oak Hill, and Lake Prairie, as well as our 6th grade teachers, and talked to them about if you could pick, if you had your choice, what would you want to teach? And when we put the schedule together, we were able to give every teacher their first or their second choice of what they wanted. So I'm hoping, and our hearing is that they're very excited, they're very eager, they're ready to get together, they're ready to start planning together with their new teams, and it seems like there's a sense of overall excitement throughout the school community, and I hope the community as a whole. So I hope not, you can't tell the future, of course, but I'm really encouraged that the teachers all seem to be very eager and very excited about the future with this building, and so I don't see that in the future, but like we don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, but as of now, not that I'm aware of.
Gina, I'm going to steal a quote too.
Please do.
We actually had a teacher who said, like, with change comes resistance, no matter what, personal lives, professional lives. One of our 5th grade teachers said, Gina, Kevin, Andy, I can say that unlike any time in history of a change, that you have everybody on board with this opportunity. And that was said to us after we kind of asked and sought out if this was the right decision to go, and when we were communicating with 5th grade and communicating with 6th grade and seeking feedback, like at the end of that like interview fact-finding process, we had such tremendous buy-in and excitement, and that's only built now that they know what their staff schedule is going to be or what their staff assignment is going to be. So we're really excited by the energy that this is bringing from the staff.
So to circle back to that curricular piece, and somebody had asked about the advantages. One of the great advantages that we haven't touched on yet is the great opportunity for good vertical alignment across grade levels that I know that everybody's really excited about. Not only will we have 5th grade teachers teaching 5th and 6th grade science and social studies, so they'll have a very natural progression into that next grade level, and there are already great relationships between our 6th grade teachers, our 7th grade teachers, and our 8th grade teachers, that communication will be very natural and very organic between them. But we'll see the same thing with having our 5th grade math and English teachers in the same building as our 6th grade math and English teachers with people who they've already built relationships with. So in those really important core content areas, you're going to have very easy communication across those subject areas and across those grade levels, which I think is great. Tomorrow and Wednesday, I lost my day of the week for a moment, the teachers will be coming together for the first time to talk about what they currently do at the 5th grade level, what they currently do at the 6th grade level, and where we want to blend those things. So we'll get a really nice piece of what's happening at the elementary schools together with what's happening at the middle schools and find as much common ground as you can there. And that's where we're at with curriculum. What else do you think, Mr. Deal?
Got transport, thank you. I mean, the first one that was asked, we can talk sports ECAs, right? We've like ignored the first question.
We sure did.
So there are, when we looked at the programs, there are certain sports that are sanctioned right at the middle school level where there's competition. That's currently the reality for our 6th through 8th grade students. So not every 6th grader has the same athletic competition opportunities as, say, an 8th grader or even a high school student. So what we'll look at is like, what programs can we continue to offer that are currently in place for 6th graders because they are sanctioned. And what we saw with some of our other neighboring intermediate schools is if they don't have a sanctioned program that is supported by like the IHSAA, you can look at other schools that have that age group where it's more of like a club or an intramural. And even if it's a small subsection, we would invite you to look at the opportunity to say, could we do competitions either locally with that, if it's a program we want to build, or if there are some neighboring districts that would like to be in that competition with us, we could explore that as well. Our neighbors have all done it a little bit differently. I think it's really about gauging that interest, maintaining the programs that we have, because we don't want to see any cuts to those opportunities, but knowing, much like with the electives, if we see an opportunity to grow a program a year earlier, we would definitely explore the benefits of starting that at a younger age. The same would be true for your ECA, so think about programs that are like academic teams, Spell Bowl, Science Olympiad, robotics. There are a number of programs outside the realm of sports that absolutely exist and do extremely well at our elementary levels. Those don't have to stop. So those will be the types of things where you look for a club sponsor to coach and guide those teams and seek the age-appropriate opportunity for them to be competitive with their peers.
So we're gonna have robotics here?
We actually already have robotics here, sir. Yeah, so we have robotics at our elementary schools, and we have a robotics team at the middle school already, and they are competitive, and they've been doing it for a number of years now, yeah. I love it.
So will there now be 3 separate teams? Because you have an elementary, you have a middle school, so what happens to that?
So as a non-robotics expert, we would have to act and look about, I know that they existed, I've blown one mind back then, but we would have to look at, I really don't know what the different divisions are, so we would have to just see what's the age-appropriate division for them to compete, because I know that some of them are age or grade level specific.
Okay. And another school district, they had, the high school, basketball team, had a program where they worked with the elementary kids, and they actually did, the high school kids taught the basketball camp, and they ran it, and that was just really awesome, because it gave a little bit more, self-esteem for kids, and just being able to socialize and everything like that. Is there something at the high school level where they come down to, maybe at the intermediate, where they would offer something like that, for after school or, during the summer?
Yeah, I think we absolutely welcome like mentorship type programs like that. And while there are mentor programs that currently exist at the middle school and the high school, some of them do cross over where we have like our, some of our health club athletes that do work from the high school down at the elementary level. Those are the types of things that we open and invite. So can I say that there's a specific plan in place right now? We haven't covered that yet, but now that we know that our staffing is and we're starting to do that teaming and defining the character, those are the kinds of conversations that we want to have and absolutely invite and welcome.
Just to clarify, so for the ECAs, it's gonna be intermediate, right? 6th grade is not gonna be like on the middle school team for the club. I understand the sports, but for like club-wise, it'll be an intermediate, 5th and 6th together.
It depends on what the division or the age group requires for that specific club, and every one of them is a bit different. So we have to just go to whoever the governing body is of robotics or of Spell Bowl or of Science Olympiad, and whatever we have to do to put that team in as like an intermediate school team, that's what we would look to do.
Yeah, because those are all easy, I was just wondering, because some people were really concerned about 5th and 6th mingling with 7th and 8th.
Our goal is to not cut those programs and make sure we have the age-appropriate one available to them. That's the approach we want to take.
Will students, aside from and including student athletes, be included in like highlight reels that are posted on Facebook?
So I'm a big fan of promotion on Facebook, so you'll probably get sick of me, to be honest. I'm always kind of asking the teachers, what can I highlight, what can I highlight? So there will be a lot of that.
Well, right now it's just student athletes, and that's disappointing as band parent.
I hear you.
So I think the idea is like make sure that you have comprehensive coverage of the programs that you're celebrating, right? I love that.
So our 6th graders will still, like for sports, will still compete
We do not want to take, we don't want to take, it depends on what's specific. So like cross-country is a great example. When we went out east and we were looking at Goshen, LaPorte, those athletes still compete as they did, even though they're a part of the intermediate school. They practiced and they competed with those kids because that was the specific age group for them, yeah. I'm going to jump through a couple of these really quickly here so we have time for questions as well, and I want to make sure that our second discussion topic has time as well. Field trips are something that are K-12, so like the opportunity for field trips, I think what's exciting to a lot of teachers is like, how can we do a really special one that they look forward to in intermediate school that's unique? So like many of our fifth graders currently have a Challenger that they look forward to, right? So do we want to continue the Challenger there at fifth grade, or do we want to look at something and expanding upon that? So while all of those trips have not been decided because our teams have really just been given shape, those are the conversations that will take place throughout the year. What's the meaningful, engaging, exciting opportunity that they're going to have for field trips? Because that's something that we value all the way K through 12. The same true, I would say, like when it comes to like parties, celebrations, after school events, all of those kinds of things. That's where I get to kind of step to the side and say, like, Gina, have at it, make it a fun place. Take from what the kids at this age love about the elementary, take from what they start to like and get exposed to at the middle school, bring that together and find out what those parties and activities and events are like that are most age appropriate and engaging for the intermediate school kids. So while we don't have a map out of our social events that are going to take place, it's something that the teams will be talking about as they plan for next year.
You want me to take SEL resources?
Please, yeah.
So we currently utilize Second Step K-12. So that would stay, we would stay with those Second Step lessons. The students have been familiar with it throughout school, so we would just continue with that. And those would be delivered during that homeroom time, and students have it both at the beginning and at the end of the day.
We've already talked about not only the way that the year begins, but we said like one of the questions was, will there be tours ahead of the year? We absolutely want to do those types of things to bring the kids in, get them acquainted with the building, get them acquainted with the different levels, their teachers. So there will absolutely be like a preparatory event. But in addition to that, we want to have a community celebratory event. I mean, we're essentially, even though it's still not breaking ground, so to speak, we're opening a brand new school. And like, that's exciting. So we're ribbon cutting to welcome that new school so that these kids who are coming up feel some excitement, like, oh, I get to be a part of that. Like, we want to build that excitement and anticipation for our students as well with some type of a big kickoff event. Gina's already got some fantastic ideas. I'm not going to spoil any of them because I know she wants to share them with you. But that's really important to her, is that this feels special. That it's not just like I'm going to the middle school a year early, but it truly feels like I'm getting a new experience that nobody in the town of Lowell has had before, and I'm the first to do it. That's kind of cool and has a lot of potential.
I was gonna say, I really appreciate that, because this class, my son, everybody, that was the pandemic, the kids were shut down. And so it's really a lot for them, like this change. So they've gone through a lot, the social emotional and everything like that. So it's important, and glad to hear that, because it's very overwhelming sometimes for them to leave that elementary, atmosphere that comes in a whole new setting.
Absolutely.
To hear about the excitement, to bring that to them, because, they've been through a lot, through the elementary years.
Absolutely, absolutely. One easy one about like grades and reporting. As they do transition out of the elementary school, we very much value and appreciate like a standards-based grading model, because it gives you and our youngest learners like the most accurate reflection of academic achievement and growth on specific skills at that level. When we start to get to those upper grade levels, the A, B, C, D, F traditional model is more familiar to our families. It definitely has its flaws where you start to combine a bunch of grades together, but knowing that they're getting ready and we're trying to transition them for middle school preparedness, we've talked about the grading system being like that of the secondary level at the intermediate school. So we'll work with our students, talk about that, because they need to have some understanding of that shift from a standards-based model to a grade-based model. Building timeline is important, and that is, we've talked already about the footprint, but like that'll come up tonight in our second part with Mr. Anderson, but we're ready to go in 24-25. Like, so our doors are going to open. So when we say that first project is going to be turning that LGI room into the offices, we have some renovations that have to take place to the current central office to make them classrooms again. We have some other minor renovations throughout the school to make those classrooms ready for all of this population that's coming in. We also look to the future and see potential to do enhancements to the school, not just the gymnasium, but what other areas can we enhance with our current construction projects. So we are looking to be ready and open for the 24-25 school year, and you'll hear more specifically about like the district timeline of construction projects for the second part today. Do you want to jump into support services, staff and programming?
So support services, as well as those inclusion services, those are those pebbles that Mr. Deal talked about earlier that we're really just at the beginning stages of working out. We definitely are getting to where we're ready to tag in NISAC and start to talk with them about what their services will look like and how they'll help support our students at the intermediate school. So all of those pieces are still kind of coming into play, getting started as early as tomorrow with our teachers starting to work together in teams.
And all of those different services that are provided at the elementary are provided all the way through high school. So when you think about our English language learners, students with IEPs, students with 504s, students that are identified as high ability, all of those are actually K through 12 services that are provided, so they will absolutely be a part of what's provided academically and behaviorally for our intermediate school as well.
The nursing staff, I see you have your offices. Are you going to have one nurse for both schools?
Yep, so we'll have the one nurse, however, she's getting quite a glow up to her office. We'll be bumping that office out, her nurse's office out into the current office, which has kind of got that really large reception space if you've been in the middle school office. So she'll have more beds available in there, she'll have more rooms for her med cabinets, where she'll have one that's dedicated for our intermediate building and then one for the middle school building. So she'll have much more space in there.
And then I know like at Oak Hill, they have a room called the Nest for like sensory kind of things. Are you still gonna have that at the intermediate, that level?
Yep, you bet. So what's nice is that we already have the pods in our building, and each of those pods kind of have a student space where they can use for collaboration time, small group instruction that's kind of set very similar to the nest that you're talking about at Oak Hill. But we also have what's called a regulation room in both our intermediate office that currently exists as the middle school office, and I knew that's in the works for the middle school office, so they won't lose that either.
One of the nice things is that like there's only a handful of like shared services, the nurse being one of them. We were very intentional in the redesign, like that as you walk in right here, which is kind of the hub of the school, the outer area of those offices will be accessible in like common spots. So like when you're going to the nurse, it's right there. You don't have to make your way through one of the towers or through one of the other offices. You can actually access it from that common point. We were intentional in doing that with part of the redesign that's happening in that spot.
I'm gonna have a 6th grader and a 7th grader next year.
You have to go through both drop offs.
Well, I'm picking them up for like a doctor's or dentist appointment. Am I as a parent able to go from one office to the other to collect my children? Or do I have to drive around the building?
No, you could just go to the one office. You wouldn't have to walk across. They would just communicate with the secretary to the other secretary and just get both kiddos for you. And whichever office you decided to go in that day would just collect both kids.
So to kind of bring this to a close, because I see Mr. Anderson standing in the back, that's like the light flashing when you're giving an Oscar award speech, right? Self-reflection was a question that Catherine asked, and I think that that's so important that in all of the schools that we visited, one of our first questions was like, what did you learn from your process that we don't have to remake the same mistake that you did? And it was really great to hear from all of them that they had learned something along their journey that gave them cause to pause, step back, reassess, and determine if a better fit was appropriate. So we would absolutely exercise the same self-reflection and self-evaluation as we did through that first year to say, what's really working well? Where are there opportunities for improvement? How can we lean in and make sure we're doing the most for students? Because at the heart of all of this has been that bridge, transition, academic and behavioral support for kids. So rather than this being about brick and mortar square footage, we wanted to maximize the student experience. So being self-reflective and seeking opportunities to continuously improve, that's one of our driving guiding principles, and we'll absolutely exercise that with this program, especially because it's brand new. I do think we've learned a lot from our neighbors. I very much appreciate them. we've been able to take what we like the most from them and really make it fit to our population, to our community, to our staff, and hopefully gives the most well-rounded of student experiences for all of these kids coming up to this building. So, to answer the question, yes, and we will be doing that because that's what we do, and that's what good practice looks like. So, we look forward to that, because nothing that you put onto paper is ever perfect. It can always be improved upon, and we look forward to that. So, I believe I'm going to turn it back over. Oh, one more question.
So I know you talked that you guys look at the demographics and the growing size of Lowell and stuff, but obviously Lowell is growing rapidly. How many kids are you expecting for next year to start, and how many more kids in this plan house before you need to add on again?
So the good news is we're looking at our current enrollment, which fits within the structure and still leaves us available classrooms in both houses currently. So there's actually a corner up here where those classrooms aren't actually occupied or playing with the intermediate school and the fifth graders coming. So this school, when we think about when it was built, Lowell was a much higher population in terms of total enrollment at that time. So knowing that it was built with that capacity in mind, we still won't fill every single classroom in this building by bringing the fifth graders. We also don't see like a tremendous single grade addition from the demographer study. It's obviously spread across lots of grade levels. So looking at the demographer report, it would be wonderful, Adam, if I had a crystal ball and I could be like, I know exactly how many kids will be here in 5 years, but we don't. The demographers look at lots and parcels and the age group, medium age group that's coming in, and they do all of that, and they put it into a fancy algorithm, and they give us their best guess, but we truly just don't know. The good news is we have room to expand, and that's multiple classrooms, not just like a single one here or there, and that's good to know with the future in mind.
Yeah, so just quickly going back to class blend, so where my question was going there, are you, just like with the teachers, are you gonna be blending all the three schools together in classes, or?
I'm sorry I missed that.
Broke it up?
We want them to be seen as like not an Oak Hill kid, a Lake Prairie kid, or a Three Creeks kid. So they will be blended together, and we look at what's called the cluster model. So you don't just have like tracking of students, but you have a blend of like your high achieving students, your middle of the road students, your students that might be below grade level. You blend and balance so that those classrooms are clustered, so that you've got representative students in each of them and in each team. The last thing you want is to have any student be like, oh, I'm on that team, because it has a stigma to it. That's where you create that balance so that you've got even proportion of students of different achievements and ability levels across all of your teams, rather than making sure you have a really high team, a middle team, and a low team. That's really not a good practice for kids. So yes, we blend from the schools, and yes, we'll make sure that we blend academic levels as well.
Super quick, are you guys going to utilize Canvas and bring it to sixth grade currently uses it for everything? Is that
Yeah, so Canvas is used K through 12 right now, but obviously we've already had fifth grade teachers, and I've got one in the audience back there. I promised I wouldn't call on her, and I'm not going to. But they've already said, like, we need more help because those middle school teachers do such cool things with it. So, like, training and supporting our current fifth grade teachers to see how they can leverage it more effectively for their student needs, that's absolutely on the radar for future training.
Yeah, and I would highly encourage that because the fourth graders are like absolutely freaking out right now.
We'll make sure that they're supported.
So, while they're at school all day, it sounds like they're gonna be very separated from one another, but just going back on the bus, we're gonna have 10-year-olds and 17-year-olds together.
So we're not looking to make changes to like what the current busing is. So I do believe, and I don't have Mr. Becker here, I'm not sure what the greatest range of student is, but we absolutely have transfer buses as our current reality where you have high school, middle school, and elementary, and a large part of that is because of how much square footage we cover. So we might have students down in Schneider where it's just one high school, one elementary, one middle, and rather than sending 3 buses there, they would go on that bus together. So we're not looking because of the intermediate school to change like the current reality. I think from an effort of like continuous improvement, how do we more effectively and quickly get them to and from school would be the pressing question for us. But we're not looking to make any changes from what the norm is right now.
So when we transfer to this intermediate school, are we talking we're going to have some normalcy? Because right now, like Prairie doesn't
And I think you're talking like consistency, right?
Yeah.
And I think knowing what Gina talked about, how like tomorrow's the first day that those teachers are coming together, the whole intention of that is like, how do we both horizontally align our practices, 5th grade and 6th grade across, but also vertically align them so we know exactly what's happening 5, 6 as a pair, so that we are sure of what we're sending from 5th to 6th. And then because we're in the same building, we then add the advantage of our 7th and 8th grade neighbors are right across the hall for professional development and time to work together. We've got a conversation that can happen there. So horizontal alignment across grade level bands, plus vertical alignment from 5 all the way through up are absolutely priorities, yes.
One more question,
Yep.
So back on class sizes for aides, so like at Oak Hill, there's 22 kids in a class and there's an aide in the class. Is there gonna be aides for 5th graders?
So we have not currently decided what the staffing will be in terms of those support staff members. Obviously, we've talked about some of the support staff positions that have been impacted over the past year. We're looking at like, what is the right fit? Because there are instructional assistants at the middle school currently. They're not nearly as to the proportion of what you would see at the elementary school because the needs are different, the role that they play is different. That same conversation about what role and what support is needed for those teachers is a conversation we still have to have.
That's it.
Got a mascot yet?
It's almost like you threw that out there.
Pedal.
It's one of our pedals to choose, Mr. Weirs. But the question of the mascot is an important one. I'm going to open that can of worms because we truly haven't like dove into that conversation because I know how important that is. But it's absolutely something that'll be worked on sooner than later for those intermediate school kids. And I know you want to go to the spirit check and start buying all of the swag for them, right? So from Gina and myself, thank you guys so much. That was a little over, goodness, an hour of good back and forth dialogue. I hope that you feel as though the topics that were presented tonight were answered in ways that you can see the immense amount of planning that has gone into this. It has truly been a privilege to work with Gina and all of our staff members to come up with solutions to the problems and the questions that you posed. But I hope you also have kind of confidence in knowing that if there's something that we're not solidified in, that hasn't been etched into stone just yet because it hasn't been decided, that you've got a lot of very intentional conversation and work that is happening in the months ahead prior to the start of next school year that'll be sure to address those things and do all that we can for a very successful, unique, and exciting open. So I'm going to let Gina, if you have any closing comments, please go for it.
Just that my contact information is currently listed on the Lowell Middle School page. So if you leave this meeting tonight, you think, oh, I wish I had asked this, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via email. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if I don't have the answer right away, I'll let you know that. And as soon as I do have the answer, I'll let you know. And just thank you so much for coming tonight. It's so incredible to see this many faces out here on a late evening on a Monday. I can't wait to get to work with all your kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So here's the plan. I will give you a brief overview of the instruction. Then we'll take a 2-minute break, and those of you who feel like you need to leave, feel free to leave. And then for everybody else, we will roll up these windows at midnight for a snack. In a nutshell, over the next 2 years, primarily though in year 1, a year from now, elementaries, we're looking at new flooring, paint, and furniture. Middle school, intermediate school. Talked about converting the LGI into the new middle school office. If you look at the top left of the screen, that's our transportation center. We will be relocating the warehouse for buildings and grounds that's currently sitting in the Three Creeks Elementary front yard. We will remove that, allow better traffic flow for parent drop-off and pick-up, and bring buildings and grounds over here to share the same building as our transportation center. It makes a lot more sense from a works efficiency standpoint. Our mechanics are all together, our climate programmers are all together. Plus, on snow days, we're not traveling from Three Creeks over to the middle school to plow out the buses to then go back to Three Creeks to plow. So it increases efficiency. Plus, on our electric bill, we have a big solar grid here, and so we can assume all of that on our solar grid. And so that's the overview of that. The addition of the bus lane, I think Mr. Dill spoke to everything there. At the high school, he mentioned that the district office administration was moving out of here. We are capturing some unused space at the high school media center. Currently, it's 11,000 square feet. Media centers over the past 20 years have drastically changed. It used to be the hub of the computer lab. It used to store all of the tube TVs and the VCRs and the overhead projectors. A lot of that has disappeared, and so you see some vacant space going on. As a result, the media center will be reimagined for 2024, and then our district offices will take over the other half with a little bump out on the front side, on the side of Commercial Avenue. Then the athletic complex, which is grossly overdue for an update, will get updated to the same standard as the other schools in our competitive conference. So that's the gist of the construction overview. Let's take a 2-minute break if you want to stand. If you need to leave, we will be pushing out updates over Facebook, newsletters, on our district website. And so let's take a 2-minute break and we'll come back and resume our meeting. Yes, ma'am. Why not keep track? What else?
What grade would be going into the middle school? Like, we start like, what grade are they now? First grade. Should be a fifth or fourth grade, and then go to fifth grade. Would it be like the second year?
Okay, so grades for the Lowell Intermediate School versus Lowell Middle School versus elementary. Is that captured? Yes.
School.
Play pool?
No, pull up it.
What else? else? It'll be a really short meeting.
If there is a state measure that from here on that hard play area, and that's right on the main road there, that it's access to anything.
Hard click, Betsy.
I mean, that's the only thing that it's in, rather than just walking on the playground. I mean, I know it's not a topic anybody wants to talk about, but that's the society we're living in today.
So, safety. All right. What else? All right, well, let's just start here, and
I was just gonna ask for, what's the new traffic by the high school, because with all the updates, by the high school?
LHS traffic. Yes, ma'am.
The new traffic, is there gonna be a new traffic pattern at 3 Creeks since you're pulling out that building?
Creeks Elementary traffic. All right, let's get rolling. So, on the list, we'll tackle all the traffic ones. Klein Avenue traffic. So you've got what I've heard are two concerns. One concern is that Klein Avenue gained Route 2. Because currently, that is an apparent issue with grades 6, 7, and 8 in this building, and now you expand that to 5, 6, 7, 8. We have tried to be proactive with that. However, those that govern the state road, you have to have a problem first, and not be proactive before you fix it. So unfortunately, you have to let that play out before they would consider putting a light there. Out here, you've got turn lanes where buses and intermediate are pulling in one entrance, but it's a good enough distance away from the middle school entrance to sort out those two groups. What is congested right now at the middle school, keep in mind that's 3 grade levels, so that will be reduced to 2 grade levels on that side of the building, and then you have the remaining 2 grade levels on this side of the building. So the thought process is that should improve the current traffic setup. Regarding 3 Creeks Elementary, if the warehouse goes away, will there be a new traffic configuration? That is the plan. And so we're not to that point yet of what that looks like, but that is part of the rationale for redoing that area in front of 3 Creeks. LHS traffic. So right now, any change typically will start with an identified problem. And what you have at 3 Creek, the high school, so the high school, we have a situation, this is Commercial Avenue, to get you acquainted. This is Holtz Road. The north entrance of the high school is right here, so you have students and parents who come in this entrance. And let's just speak to after school. So what happens after school, this cursor is a parent card, comes in, comes all the way down, it circles around, and it gets in queue right here. The problem is there's no pass lane in here. So you might have 5 cars stacked, and in car number 3, the kid comes out, and they're ready to roll, but they can't because car 1 and 2, they don't have their passengers yet, and so you'd have major backup. Part of the other issue is that you've got parent traffic that's intermixed with student traffic, and that creates issues. So in the revised plan, You have a double lane in, which currently is a single lane in. You have a double lane that comes in, a double lane that goes out. In this double lane in, the student traffic will veer over to the north, take this route, and they will fill up the parking lot from this westernmost area all the way up here through the center area. Parent traffic comes in here, goes straight, and then there's a gate right here in the shaded area that's closed during arrival and dismissal. That forces the parent traffic around here, comes along this curb, and then goes either north or south on Holtz Road. There's an extended sidewalk here, and so the training of the system is that when you come well before dismissal and you want to be first in line, we need all cars to pull around as far as they can, so that gets everybody in off Holtz Road. Whenever your kid gets out, whether you're back here or up here, you pull out of that curb spot, get in the passing lane, and you leave. All of the bus traffic would remain on the south side of the building over here. At dismissal, we are looking at, for that 10 to 15 minute window, that all student traffic will exit out this way, out to the light, and that is programmable, and they'd be on their way. That's what the experts say in these big venues. If you want to get the safest and the quickest way out, get some one lane happening going on for that short time frame.
So are parents not allowed to exit on commercial anymore?
Well, you wouldn't actually be able to get over there, so parents would be forced during arrival and dismissal to come through here, circle around, and back out. That's one of those keeping parents separate from kids, separate from buses. After school hours, this is open to anybody to exit. You could get exit to Commercial Avenue, or you get exit to Holtz Road, either one.
How are you keeping them separate in the morning so they're all coming in?
So, yeah, they initially all come in the same entrance, but the kids veer off to the north, and this becomes their traffic lane, and they fill up the parking lot. And then the parents are only in this area up here, as well as staff and visitor parking. We've also made some improvements in getting visitor parking closer to the building, at the main entrance here. Not on the list is, if you'll notice, the current high school has no sign that says main entrance. Do I come in this first one? Do I come in the second one? Or do I go in the third one? So all that signage will be overhauled. Those drop arms will go away. And hopefully that will help with wayfinding and reduce frustration. I think you saw, let's see here, that picture. So that main entrance that we're talking about on the north side of the building, there will be a new sign featured there that hopefully will say, screen, this is the main entrance to Lowell High School. Cool, so let's go back to that slide. So, like I said, every change typically starts with an identified problem. I should have gone to the traffic pattern slide. Here it is. How many slides I see every day. So you see future pool. This is Bo Withy. She's our Chief Financial Officer. I'm just going to give her the mic so you hear a different voice. She has insight on how much money we are literally dumping into the current pool that closes it?
Yes, our current pool is number one, definitely in need of renovation. We've done some minor Band-Aid type repairs to it that have limped us along here, but we are definitely in need of a more compliant pool that we have. Our filtration system, the pumping system is failing. We spend more time down in pool time than we do up. We're not able to use it for our PE classes as much as we want to, or even for the public, or anything like that. We don't get as much out of that pool that we really should, just because it does cost a lot. Yearly basis between $30,000 and $40,000 to keep that thing just running for the minimal time that we can keep it up. So we are definitely in need of a new facility, a natatorium there that can move with the times, can actually be compliant with diving regulations that we don't have right now, and just be a safer facility all the way around. We would be able to cut costs on that efficiency that we would have with new pumps in there and everything. So we are looking at a totally new site and a new future pool that will be part of the projects once we get through the majority of the athletic complex upgrades. So we will definitely be looking hard at that in the next year to 16 months, I'd say.
So we did, in looking at the pool, like why wouldn't you just look at the existing location instead of adding on? We did. And it's a pod, right? It's a round circle, and extending those swim lanes to a length that would meet the current industry standard is just not economically feasible. So by tacking on the pool north of the field house, you get a new natatorium. It would be available for public use. It would adjoin the field house. Currently in the field house, there's a little cutout where gymnastics occurs. Actually, when gymnastics have their practice, they pull all of their equipment out into the field house. So that already is creating some conflict. And then they put it away. Cheerleaders currently don't have a designated space. And so by shifting the pool over to an add-on natatorium, which would be phase 2 to all of our construction projects, we would take the existing pool, fill it in, and that becomes the gymnastics area, the cheer area, and a performance lab area with a great spectator seating up above. Really minimal renovation that is necessary. The HVAC doesn't need to be changed, no seating changed. So that's a cost factor. We check off solving multiple problems. So if gymnastics were to go then to that current pool area, that outlet area in the current field house, we would like to bring up the cable weights and the cardio machines to that area and make that community use as well. So for community use, you would have your pool, your field house, your cable weights, and your cardio. And so people could walk in the morning, do the cable weights, the cardio, and then our tennis courts are always open to the public as well. The pool is phase 2. Yes, ma'am.
I love this because I'm from Lake Michigan City, which does have great facilities, but DAC, and so seeing this, like it really does, I used to work at Valpo, so seeing what they've done with their natatorium, like it is super exciting. But like what happened, are we losing parking? Because parking is rough at the high school. Like even, I'm talking like going to a cross-country meet, there was nowhere to park. People are parking along the holes because there's nowhere to be.
I'm so glad that you.
Okay.
So over here, we refer to this, Patty McCormick, our athletic director, refers to this as the, razor, the old time switchblades. It currently, if you go to a baseball game, a softball game, you'll see this completely full, and then you'll see everybody parking in the grass, right? There are not enough spaces. So that remains there. However, over here on this side of campus, we will have a new entrance that will serve the north side of the campus. And it's adding on an additional 30 spaces to what's currently on the Razor. And so you have, if there were a softball game or a baseball game or cross-country meet, that parking is all available on the north side. So let's explain this map right here. This is the current layout. So you see the football field, the track. This is the maintenance building. This was the old woodworking shop, if you recall. If you've been around a while, off of Holtz Road, the school district acquired this property. That the structure's been torn down since then. You have the current varsity baseball field, current varsity softball, and then you get JV softball and JV baseball. Soccer field is right here. Tennis courts right here. And so you can see right now, this rendering, you'll see how some of these items shift to the north and create more parking back to your, will there be more parking? Yes. And so all of these spots are added, and you'll see how it's developed down in through here, and as well as this lot right here. So for football games, if you've ever had to come late into a really big game, you'll find yourself parking way over here, and then you're walking all the way around the building. We are designing this for our visiting football crowd to enter this area, park here. They have the visiting stands for them. Their concession stands over here. Their restrooms are over here. Kind of keeps the crowd separate, and this becomes available for all use. All right, so this is the new rendering. We looked at the old. So you come in this new north lot. For those of you who may have had to walk from this parking lot over to the ball field because you couldn't get there, hopefully this will accommodate everybody to get out of your car, come in and go to a varsity baseball game, JV baseball, varsity softball, or JV softball. Sorry, varsity softball. Concession stands are here, restrooms. You'll see that the soccer field shifted north. The soccer field had designated seating, press box, the four-letter T word of turf is being applied to soccer, varsity baseball, varsity softball, and varsity football. And what a lot of people need to understand is that there's a huge amount of clay out there that does not drain. And it also is not conducive to growing nice grass. And we've had to cancel many games because our fields simply do not drain. By putting in turf, they redo all of the drainage underneath, apply the turf, and that becomes hopefully no more cancellations. For our varsity fields, we've also installed lighting so that we don't have to stop the game in the sixth inning and then resume it the next day like we currently have to do because it gets dark outside. The lighting is all directional lighting. And then you might say, but what about these people that live right here? We strive to be good neighbors, right? And so we sent letters to all of Windsor Woods, their properties joined, and they came in and we had conversation, and we asked their feedback. They wanted some, more bushes over here, but not over here, and we've adapted to their feedback. So sounds like everybody is on board. All right, another nice enhancement Actually, let me go over to, got some pictures of our current. This is, if you've not been to our athletic facilities for a while, we've since corrected, cleaned up, but you can only clean up so much. It's just, it was time. It's time for an update. There'll be more restrooms at our facilities. If you've ever gone to a football game and standing in line. Let's see here. So there's kind of a 3D look at the campus. And that white building at the far end of the football field on the north side, we currently refer to that as the North Star. So the North Star will have a second level added on top. It will accommodate up to 120 for the team meals. It will overlook the football field on the south side, and on the north side, it will overlook the baseball fields. It's also a room that is available to professional development for when we host district meetings where we have a lot of people, where we host other schools to come. It can be opened up for our community as a community room. Downstairs will house all of the locker room facilities for all of our outdoor sports. So track, soccer, football, baseball, softball, cross country. Will house all of the outdoor teams. And I'm looking at our previous athletic director, Mr. Bales. He's probably salivating. He's seen some of these plans, and I think he's very excited about them.
Timeline, phase 1, phase 2.
So, for high school specific, you will probably see bulldozers coming in the next couple of weeks to start taking down the maintenance building and probably starting to bulldoze that east side of campus. We hope to have football kick off next fall. So at least the new football stadium, track, there'll be new grandstands, a new press box. Mrs. Bogey.
Our first 3 games for football are away next year, and then our 4th game is Hanover on our new field.
That building be done?
Yes.
Really?
So part of all of our construction projects, as a part of our strategic plan, that our facility should exhibit pride, something that the Lowell community is proud of. Because if you haven't been to Kankakee or Hanover or Crown Point, you can say, well, we are who we are, but I will tell you, the fact of the matter, our students go there to compete, and then they come back home, and there's a little bit of embarrassment, and our kids deserve equal opportunity, right? And so we have an opportunity. All of this is being done without raising the tax rate. And so you've got some renderings here of, you see this sign right here. This will be along Commercial Avenue. People pull into town of Lowell at State Road 2 and Holtz Road for the first time. If you don't really focus in and see the school logo on the side of the building, if you're new to the area, you really don't know that that's a school. And so we really want to have that community pride there, and then you can see some renderings of the athletic complex.
Will the baseball fields be ready for spring season?
I am not as in tune with the baseball field, so I don't have the answer to that at the moment. Here's what I do know. Your athletic director.
Spring so like if we start with 24, will it be done by that 24?
Everything is supposed to be done within a year.
25, yes.
So
So if we start football in 24,
will we then have baseball that following spring? It's just that, oh, how
We
much
should
that
be
is?
ready for baseball and softball in 25.
Provided everything shows up like it should.
We're talking like fields, you know, and everything. As far as turf, you know, things that are out of our control, that would, you know, but that's the plan. Yes.
So the pool is phase 2. It's not in stone, but it's in the plan. Okay? So we have to first get through all of these projects, make sure we are on budget or below budget before we then open up phase 2. Phase 2, we're believing it's going to be happening.
You keeping the old scoreboard?
So we are repurposing the current baseball and softball scoreboards, but I do believe this one is on its last day and will be updated to a new one.
Still gonna have flames, right?
We still intend to have flames. And the neighbor that shoots off the fireworks still plans to shoot off the fireworks. You know, my team is Mrs. Bogathy and Kevin and our technical director Jay back there, so any of you feel free to chime in. Yes, ma'am.
Is this part about the high school? Like we're done with
So is there anything else with high school?
I'm just curious.
So we can go back to answer your questions from middle school.
Yeah, but-
Middle school will be grades 7 and 8.
No, I mean, like, my daughter's in 3rd grade. Would she be part of the new
Intermediate
middle
school.
school when she was in 5th grade? Like, she'll finish.
So your daughter's in 3rd grade right now. Next year will be in 4th grade at the elementary school, and the following year will be in an intermediate school. So yes, she will be a part of the stream. Yeah, she'll be in year 2 of the intermediate school.
Thank you.
Hard play surface, at any of our playgrounds. I don't see, is that you? Yeah, okay. You know, safety is always a concern. Having kids outside, visible. So the hard play surface is here along Klein Avenue. So is our playground right in front of Oak Hill.
Which I'm not a fan of either, but.
I mean, part of it is dictated by, logistics, right? I will tell you that in the area, so this area right all through here, we actually spend a ton of time mowing. And so we've tasked our architects to bring in a landscape architect and figure out what we can do with that area so that it helps to enhance the aesthetic. So prairie grasses, wildflowers, etc., that you maintain once a year. We stop mowing, we improve the aesthetic. But my point for our conversation here, that will provide a little bit of a buffer, so it won't seem as wide open.
And you'll also notice we intentionally oriented it north-south as the rectangle because there is a very steep slope there as well. So like even trying to build it the opposite direction would have caused a lot more work, but it also keeps us pressed further back from that road, allows for the natural landscape, even some fencing there. So there's considerable amount of square footage there between it by orienting it north-south as well.
We also have secure doors and cameras in all those spaces, so.
Is this exciting? I think this community will be very proud of their facilities. A lot of thought, we beat dead horses all the time, so to speak. And we do that because we want to make sure that the decisions that are made are really good, well thought out, vetted decisions.
Are we at the intermediate entrance, so we're gonna put a sign up there that says intermediate, and then the signage?
Yeah, so I always tell people when I first got this job and I was coming to the first board meeting to get approved, hired by the board, I drove up and I'm like, which entrance do I go into? It's almost, okay. So now there will be clear signage, a monument sign like we saw at the high school. Will be sitting right there. It says Lowell Middle School at this entrance. And then over here at this entrance will be a standalone monument sign that says Lowell Intermediate. With also lettering on the side of the building that reinforces that. So that I have a true identity.
I realize a lot of this is already in play. How's the funding being managed for this kind of infrastructure?
So I'm just going to refer to the business lady.
So this is a bonding project that replaces a current bonding project that is falling off the books. So our 2005 high school renovation is that mortgage that we had for that is going to be fully paid for by the end of the school year. And then these projects will replace that mortgage at the same rate, tax rate will stay the same at that $1.05 that we have.
What other questions or concerns do you have?
You said you're gonna have, public access to the new field house and the pool. That's not gonna be during school hours, right?
No, it would be at hours once our, our school teams are wrapped up, or we have to serve our students first, and then after that, our community. We've got really good partnerships going right now with the town of Lowell. We're trying to synergize taxpayer money and knock two things out at the same time. So we've already had conversations about how we can share some of our land and our facilities for parks and recreations with the town.
Where does the possible new gym fit into this infrastructure project?
So here at the middle school, if the additional gymnasium is added, it will go on.
No, I see.
Timeline. It's an alternate bid.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it was tabled from.
But it is an alternate bid though, I think is the question, right?
Yes, so it's an alternate bid. We have approximately 120 days to decide if we're going to move forward with that. We're waiting to get some additional bids in to see where we are with the budget before we would move forward. I think if we drag our feet a little bit, that may not be ready for August of 24, but it might.
We want it ready on day one.
We are good. Well, if you have additional questions, we'll hang around. Otherwise, thanks for coming out. Hope you're excited about this. We'll continue to give updates through the various channels.
The plans on the website too. Yeah.
Yep, if you go to our homepage, we're currently developing out construction updates. And we have different tabs currently. Lake Prairie has a 6 classroom addition going on, and you can see renderings right here. All the HVAC has been updated, LED lighting installed, new boilers, chillers, and then you can click on each school to get more detailed information. Have a good night.